All right, so I'm gonna answer your questions that you asked over on Instagram, and while I do this quick and dirty workout, I signed up for a jiu-jitsu tournament in April, and so I've been checking out some local gyms, and I'm gonna go to a local gym tonight for no gi. And it looks like they really packed the room out, and so I don't want to be too crushed and embarrass myself for class. So I'm just gonna do super low volume, low intensity front squats, just intended to kind of keep tabs on a baseline level of strength and get some movement in because I've been sitting on my ass in front of a computer all morning studying. So let's just jump into this and not delay. So the first question is about TRT. I get questions about TRT every month, and I am not an endocrinologist. Go talk to an endocrinologist about TRT. But the question is TRT with a needle emoji when the time is right with a question mark. And so I can't really give you a good answer. I could, and I have in the past. I've kind of like skirted the edge of what I'm comfortable talking about. And I don't even like to do that, by the way, because everybody on social media wants to be a fucking expert on everything. And that's just not the reality, right? Like if you want to know about strength and conditioning, performance, cardio, rehab, lifestyle, memes, I'm your guy. Like I'll talk to you all day long about that. But when it comes to hormone replacement therapy, like I'm not the guy, right? Because I know what hormones are, I know what they do, I know their associated disorders, I know what medications people need to take if they have one of those disorders. Like I learned all that in school, but like I'm just not I'm not the TRT guy. And so I had a really great conversation with a guy in the DMs on Instagram the last time I answered a question on this. And he really kind of schooled me. And so I'm hoping to reach out to him soon and get him on here actually and just do like a quick, 20, 30-minute interview with and ask him questions that I get asked a lot. And this way, the next time I get a TRT question, I can just like send people that video. So stay tuned for that. The next question is from my man, Pete. I just got a chest heart rate monitor, Garmin. Any tips while tracking data using for cardio? So how do you use and utilize the information that you're getting from a heart rate monitor from your cardio to make informed training decisions? So the big things that you want to look for, like the changes you want to look for when tracking heart rate, is your resting heart rate and your working heart rate, as well as your heart rate recovery. And so your resting heart rate, what you can do is you can take a measurement like on awakening, right? Like over the course of 3 days. And, if I don't know if you wear it to bed or whatever, but you could like, if you don't, just put it on in bed. Like, so you wake up in the morning, right? You're still in bed, put on the heart rate monitor and see where you're at, and do that over the course of 3 days, and then take an average of that number. And that's like a kind of a good proxy to what your resting heart rate probably is. And with regular cardiovascular training, particularly endurance training, you'll see that number decrease a little bit, which is a good thing. Your heart's not having to work as hard to sustain normal function. Working heart rate is also a good indicator of how you're performing. So if I have a lower working heart rate at the same given intensity, then you can objectively say you're getting fitter, right? You're not having to work as hard to maintain that same intensity. But this is kind of the catch-22 with heart rate training, like heart rate zones, is if I give you a heart rate zone, whatever, 150 beats per minute as your target, now you're going to have to work harder to get there, right? Because your heart is just efficient. And so that's kind of like the, a good measure of whether or not you're making progress. And then the last one I would argue for a combat athlete is one of the most important things you could probably track is heart rate recovery, right? How quickly can you come back down to earth from like a high heart rate, right? And what you come back down to, you're not going to come all the way down to your resting heart rate unless you stop working out. But like, what can you come back down to over the course of a minute, say, over the course of 30 seconds, right? And you can see how applicable that is in combat sports, especially like striking, right? If I just kind of unleash a flurry of activity, right? How quickly can I come back down? so that I can recover, so that I can then unleash another flurry. Same thing in grappling, scrambling, right? How quickly can I turn it on, and then how quickly can I come back down? And so, um, you know, good heart rate recoveries, you could look online and see like what that is for your age and gender. We can't go into all of them, but like a general rule, like 18 to 30 beats per minute, 18 to 25 beats per minute over the course of 1 minute. So if you come to like a very high heart rate, I'm not going to say max heart rate, but just a very high heart rate where it feels like you're really working hard. And then can you drop back down, 18 to 25 beats over the course of 1 minute? That's like good, right? It's not like elite, but that's like a good proxy. If on the other side of the fence, if you work up to a very high heart rate and then a minute later, you're only like 10 beats less than you were, that's a problem. That's like a cause for concern, right? Like, because you're still like, you're still like really huffing and puffing. And so that is kind of like two opposing factors or considerations that will really help kind of guide what you do. The better you get, you'll see much more impressive numbers. Like not to brag, but I can go to a very high heart rate, which for me, my max heart rate is 186. I could get close to that, and I could drop back down. I don't even like over 40 beats. If I'm like really trying to, like if I like lay down and like lay on my back, I could just I plummet in less than a minute. And so your ability to come back down to earth is probably one of the best proxies for performance as a combat athlete. So yeah. Now I'm ice cold. I gotta do another warm up set. I'm doing a super duper easy front squat workout, and I'm keeping the volume super low and keeping the intensity pretty low, because I don't want to show up to a new gym and get roasted more than I already will, probably, because for the last like 2 years, I've just been like nose to the grind in PT school. Like historically, my training schedule was like, 5-6 days a week on the mats. And subject lost. 5-6 days a week on the mats, training hard, and my mat conditioning was really great. But since starting PT school, my frequency has dropped to like 2-3 times a week. Now the other side of that is my lifting and all that has gone up. Like I've actually been, performing better in the gym, but my mat conditioning and my mat strength is not where I personally want it to be. If you roll with me, you might not notice, but I definitely notice. And so I'm trying to like build that back up in preparation for a tournament that I just signed up for in April. I don't know if I mentioned that already. So anyway, that's where I'm at right now. Let's see what this next question is. I really wish it would just stay on the I have to like go back into this stupid archive thing. All right. So, all right, next question. I'm 48, male, trains BJJ 3 to 5 times a week. Need a program focusing on compounds and hypertrophy. So with that training frequency, right? I personally feel that if you're on the mats, like let's just start at the higher end of that. If you're on the mats 5 days a week, okay, and you want to get some lifting sessions in, I would advocate for 2 sessions a week, maybe 3, depending on how you recover, but definitely 2. And in those sessions, so you want hypertrophy, right? So in those sessions, I would keep all main lifts to 2 to 3 sets, right? I'll do 2. Like I'm going to work up to 2 like moderately heavy sets, and I'm going to call it there. And for hypertrophy, you want to be somewhere near failure. Now, this is kind of like a controversial topic, I think, amongst strength coaches. Like if let's just say, forget about jiu-jitsu for a second. If you wanted to maximize muscle growth, then absolutely you're training close to failure. However, training close to failure as a combat athlete can maybe not be the best thing for your performance long term. I think you should go near failure and taste that every once in a while, but I think too much of that can certainly have a detrimental effect. And so you kind of have to see, like, you have to kind of pick your poison, for lack of a better term, and prioritize what's most important to you right now. For example, for me, right now, what's most important to me is this jiu-jitsu tournament, right? I want to do well. So I am going to lift, and I'm going to do kind of the minimum effective dose approach to maintain what I have. I'm not really trying to like send anything to the moon right now, because that's what I've just been doing. The last 2 years, I've been making gains on all my lifts. Right now, I'm really focused on this tournament. So that's going to be my priority. If you don't have any kind of big event on the calendar, then you might say, hey, it's okay if my sport performance takes a hit a little bit. I just want to get jacked. And so if that's the case, then I would suggest, 2 days a week, 5 days jiu-jitsu. And in those 2 days a week, you want to keep those sessions like 45 minutes. Pick compound lifts like, the big 3 plus pull-ups. So squat, bench, deadlift, add in some pulling actions to those lifts on those days, and do like 2 sets of like 8 to 10 hard reps, right? Like intensity builds density. So send it on those 2 sets, right? It's only 2 sets, so you can really kind of put a lot of effort into it, and do that for, anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks, and you'll probably put on some size. Also, you got to eat, right? If you want to get big, you got to eat. The old adage is, eat like a horse, sleep like a baby, grow like a weed, So, yeah, take that for what it's worth. I'm going to do another, maybe a warm-up set. I don't even know, man. I don't even know if this is going to be a warm-up set or not, because I'm feeling fucking tired already. Yeah, so this feels fine, but again, I don't want to cook my legs too much before jiu-jitsu tonight. So I might actually just keep it there, 155, front squat my body weight for like sets of 2, maybe like 2 or 3 more times, and then call it there. Again, I'm not really trying to send it today. So next question. Any suggestions for strength training for upper body without putting too much stress on the wrist? So strength training, this is completely unscripted, by the way, so I have not planned any answers for these things. So if I'm like forgetting things that seem fairly obvious to you, sue me. That's for all the coaches out there who are nitpicking what I'm saying. Strength training that minimizes stress on the wrist. So I think like any type of dumbbell exercise where you can, kettlebells are going to be difficult, right? Because if I'm pressing kettlebells, that's going to place some strain on the wrist. Dumbbell exercises where I can maintain kind of like neutral positions, right? So like that's like a neutral wrist. Barbells might be tough because barbell is going to place you in a little bit of extension. So I would argue for dumbbell presses. Pulls should feel fine. Like if you have like a pressure kind of issue going on in the wrist, any type of like pulling. But I basically, in a nutshell, I would just stick to like dumbbells, and maybe like kettlebell rows you could probably do, but barbell stuff might not feel great right now. And so dumbbell bench with a neutral grip, dumbbell overhead press, you can try that, see how that feels. If you do like any like push-ups or anything like that, you could use dumbbells as like a neutral grip so that you're not like putting the wrist into too much extension. The idea is to just keep the wrist keep like the fist stacked on top of the elbow, right? So too much extension might not feel great if you have some stuff going on in all the kind of carpal bones in there. So yeah, I don't know if that's helpful or not. Yeah. Again, pulling should be fine. So one of the things about like working around an injury is I'm always like I'm always hurt. Like I've been training combat sports for a long time, and I always got like something going on that I kind of have to work around. And so whenever I am presented with an obstacle, I just like hammer the shit that I can do, right? So like if you're hurt, find something that you can do and then train it aggressively. If you have like one of your wrists is not feeling great, guess what, bro? You can hammer the other side. Like it's okay. Like you don't have to like balance everything out across left and right sides of the body. Now, I'm not saying you should like do that all the time as like a strategy, but temporarily, why not? You have two legs that work just fine. You have a core that works just fine. So I would just hammer the other shit. Anyway. Mark Ripito, for those who don't know, he's the author of a book called Starting Strength. Ripito argues explosiveness can't really be trained. Agree? Now, this is something I'm actually considering making a video on this topic, specifically on power, because power and like power training is not very well understood by professionals. Forget about the general population, but by strength and conditioning professionals don't really understand power. They talk about power as if it's this like singular quality, and power is a product, right? It is the product of force times velocity, i.e. strength and speed. So in order to influence power, I need to go downstairs and get stronger and faster. And then once I get stronger and faster, I can then express that in a explosive, powerful movement. We have these exercises that express power, like the Olympic lifts are a good kind of like example of this, right? If we look at the force velocity curve, okay, so the force velocity curve, we have like high force on one end of the spectrum and then like high velocities on the other end of the spectrum, right? So think about like your max strength work and then like your super fast, like kind of sprint jumps, that kind of stuff over here. The Olympic lifts kind of exist in this kind of mid-range of the force velocity curve, right? They're not as heavy as you can do like max strength work, and they're not as fast as we can do like relative to our applied metrics and sprints and stuff like that. So they kind of exist in this kind of middle of the spectrum. And so if I want to get a bigger kind of expression of power, then I have to go downstairs and get stronger and faster. And so what does that mean for us as combat athletes? I want to be able to express what I do in the gym on the mat. And so that means in the gym, what I do is I'll start off, I'll do typically, this is not today, but I'll typically do some type of jump exercise. So I do some type of speed work, right? And again, jumping is speed, right? Because it's how quickly can I turn and eccentric into a concentric as quickly as possible, right? So that is there's like a speed component to jumping, not plyometrics per se, but just jumping. I'll follow that up with some type of expression of power. Like, so I love power cleans and push jerks and jerks. I think that those lifts really kind of bridge the gap nicely between like expressions of power and expressions of strength. And then I'll do some max strength work, right? So I'll do like my heavy lift of the day. And then I'll do some hypertrophy, right? Whatever kind of muscle building exercise I want to do that day. And then I'll do some like isolation assistance type exercises. And all that might sound like it would take you forever. I'm in and out of the gym in 45 minutes, right? Like really, I'm just doing a couple of sets of each thing. And as a combat athlete, I think that's really necessary. So I don't know if that's what Mark Ripito means when he says power explosiveness can't really be trained. But if he does mean it in the same way that I just mentioned, then yes, I would agree with that. Again, it's something that is it's like power is a second order effect, right? So I have to influence it, I have to go downstairs and get stronger and faster. And that's how I express power in a more meaningful way. So anyway, let's do this last set. Dude, answering these questions, bro, I'm getting like so fucking like, I'm like ice cold again. Thanks a lot, guys. All right. These are still feeling pretty good. I'm going to do one more. I want to keep going because like I'm starting to like enjoy like lifting. I mean, not like I'm always enjoy lifting, but like I'm starting to like get like I want to keep going bug right now. But I might regret that later tonight. So when I'm getting smashed by like 16-year-old blue belt phenom. Oh, okay, this is a good one. Best cardio for grappling conditioning if your knees don't agree with the assault bike. So if you have knee issues, doing any type of cardio can be really challenging because so much of cardio, even low impact stuff, is very like lower body dominant, or at least like heavily involved, lower body involved. And so I'll give you like a couple of solutions. If you have access to them, great, do that. I don't anticipate you do having access to these things because these are not like commonplace. But like the first thing is just access to a swimming pool, right? If you have access to a swimming pool, swimming is probably one of the best things you can do for cardio. I believe as like just period, right? But also as a combat athlete because it's like no impact. I mean, like I always talk about low impact modalities. Swimming is no impact, and so if you can stomach the courage or scrounge up the courage to jump into a cold pool in the middle of winter, an indoor pool, I mean, and go swimming, then wonderful. I do not anticipate you having access to that because that is not a common thing. The other uncommon thing is something referred to as the upper body erg. So you might have seen these in the gym. If you belong to a gym, it's basically just like you sit in a chair and there's a monitor and then there's two cranks and you just literally, it's cardio for the upper body basically. The UBE, upper body erg, is, in my opinion, some of the most underutilized pieces of cardio equipment out there. Like super underrated. And if I had access to one, I actually considered buying one, but I just can't justify the expense because I do have an Echo bike, so I am getting some upper body stuff from there. But if I had more space, and I want to get a ski erg as well. So that's kind of my other thing. That's another one though. If you have access to a ski erg, you might be able to get away with this, even though your knees are a little bit cranky, because you are on your feet and you're doing kind of like a quarter squat on each rep on the ski erg, but you might be able to stomach that for long periods of time. It's very like upper body focus, the ski erg. So if you have access to one of those, then those would be like my top three choices. I would actually, if I rank them, in terms of effectiveness, I would say swim, ski, upper body erg, right? Those would be like my order of effectiveness. My order of practicality would be ski, upper body erg, and then swim. Just because like the time cost for the first two are very lower, very much lower than jumping in a pool and getting wet and drying off and doing all that shit, just from a time management perspective. All right, next question. What is the best BJJ/workout split? And this is like the $1 million question. I did 2 posts on this recently on Instagram where I talked about there isn't the best split. And a lot of guys will post about ideal training splits, and those posts do so well. They get hundreds of thousands of views, thousands of likes, shares, reposts, and comments, thanking them. And it's like, that shit doesn't work. Like, periodization does not fucking work. You have to take into account and control so many, if not all, of the variables in your life for ideal training plans and training schedules to work. So what I like to do is almost take a retroactive stance on how I organize my training. So for example, like this week, right now it's Tuesday. I have class tonight at 6:15. I'm doing a super duper chill basic lift session today. I'm going to see how class goes tonight. Tomorrow I have a friend coming over. We're going to roll for an hour. Maybe I do some cardio. Thursday I'm going to go train again at this gym. And last Thursday, I had a great session. I was cooked afterwards. There's the head guy, a black belt over there, like really great roll. And so like that's going to be a tough day, And then Friday I kind of have nothing really planned. And then Saturday is always a big day for me. I have Muay Thai, Jiu Jitsu, sparring. And then Sunday I'm going to go check out another gym that I've never been to. And all those boys are straight up dogs. Like they're all competitors. And so like I know what I'm expecting in the next couple of days. And so I almost make my training decisions after the fact. And you also have to kind of ask yourself, what's the priority right now? Like, are you getting ready for a jiu-jitsu tournament? Then your priorities are going to be very different than if you didn't have anything coming up and you wanted to spend more time focusing on the gym, which is what I've been doing the last 2 years, right? I've been in PT school. I've had guys come over to me a couple times a week. We train. It's fun. Nothing really serious. And now that I have a tournament coming up, I'm really focused on the sport. Like the past 2 years, I've been really focused on the gym. I've been making gains in all my lifts, progressing all that stuff. And so you really kind of have to figure out what is the thing you really want to devote your time to. All that said, if you're on the mats 3 to 5 days a week, like the previous question, then I would opt for lower gym time, like strength training time. And if the opposite is true, if you're on the mats 3 days a week, then you could probably devote more time to strength training, right? Like you have to think of your strength and conditioning and the sport as these opposing factors, right? Like if I increase one, if I dial up the sport frequency, then my strength and conditioning frequency should probably drop down a little bit, right? Because it has to accommodate that. We can't just do all things all the time. I can't just redline it 24/7. If I toggle this down, then this one can go up. And so you want to kind of make sure that you're honoring that principle so that you're not detracting from your performance on the mats. So I don't have a good answer for you. And again, if you want to go on Instagram and find people that give you ideal training splits, believe me, I'm sure you'll find it. But I'm also confident that it won't work past a week. So yeah. This is why, and again, this is not a plug, but this is why I decided to offer custom programming for people instead of cookie cutter programming. There's plenty of people out there who can write you a program, and you can go on ChatGPT and ChatGPT will write you a fucking program. But there's no toggle. There's no day-to-day stop rules or volume caps or any of the stuff that you kind of need to make game time decisions. And this is why I wanted to offer something that was a little bit more high end and a little bit more with a little more soul behind it, so that if you're like, hey man, I did this workout today, but I had a really tough session last night, didn't do too well, you can just message me and I'll give you another thing to do. You know what I mean? And so I feel like that's actually coaching. And so it's just a little shameless plug for my own stuff. So that is it. That's all the questions I got here for this round. And so thank you so much. I asked guys, I do have another Q&A thing from the other day, but I'm going to answer those questions at a future Q&A. So if any of that made sense. This was completely unscripted, fucking unfiltered stream of consciousness. I don't know if I made any kind of sense, but we're already half an hour in and I did almost nothing in my workout. So Yeah, that's it.